Hello, New York Giants fans, and welcome to a new edition of the Valentine's Views podcast here on YouTube. Please like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. All right, I have a special guest today, somebody we haven't had on the show in quite a while, and mea culpa for me on that end. That's my bad, but I have Brandon London, one-time Giants wide receiver and current New York Post sports host. Brandon, thank you so much for a few minutes.
Hey, what's going on, man? Thanks. Happy New Year, first and foremost. Thanks for having me on, man. There's always Giants content to be made, especially with the off season that we're about to walk into. So can't wait to talk football with you.
Yeah, yeah. It seems like back in the day, the Giants never made the back page of the Post or the Daily News or whatever. They never made the back page of those papers for anything other than football reasons. Winning
Yep,
football
yep.
games. It's not really that way anymore, is it?
No, no, and it's one of those things where it is what it is. Being a coach's kid and playing in the NFL and the CFL, you take as a player, as the athlete, you take each season one practice at a time, one game at a time, one season at a time. So now that the Giants 2024 season is put to bed, the player, the athlete in me is looking forward, like looking towards 2025. Now, the media host in me obviously has to continue to talk about things. We're going to interview Daniel Bellinger, Evan Neal coming up soon here at the New York Post. So we obviously have to revisit some things and talk about it. But when I talked to Daniel Bellinger the other day, like these guys are already looking towards 2025 and how to right a wrong and how to right a ship. It's going to be a clean
Mm.
slate. I think right now, though, this off season is the regular season slash postseason for Joe Shane, and it's going to have to be a huge off season for him. But that's the best part about a football organization. And it's like it's different people in different positions working all towards one thing, trying to win that Super Bowl. So players couldn't get it done in 2024. Now we're going to reset to 2025. First up, Joe Shane and the scouts, what do you have to better the roster? What do you have for the fans to make sure that there's going to be a stronger product in terms of players put on the field in 2025? And if you think about it, it's like it's super exciting, man. Like it's because it's like every year it's something, it has to be something new. So I know Joe Shannon has had the scouts out throughout pretty much the entire season, just going scouring the earth for who could be that next franchise quarterback, whether it's someone from the draft or it's someone that's on a roster, NFL roster right now. But that's what I love about football. And like, it's just so many different chess pieces that have to move starting in, the off season to get to where you want to get to that next February to be in the Super Bowl.
I do want to get into all of it. It is important, I think, to understand what happened in 2024 as we
Mm.
go into 2025. But let me just start with this quickly. Are you good with Joe and Dave's being back?
Yeah, man. If that's what Mr. Mara wants to do, then absolutely. I look at it again as a coach's son with their record. I could see why if he were to fire them, and I'd be like, okay, with the record and obviously not getting it done. The Giants' 100th season with everything that they rolled out, entertainment wise, and all like you could see it. My father's been fired. My father has had to resign from his head coaching position before. To me, it just is what it is. Football is business to me. It's like, I love the Giants because they gave me my start in both football and media, but at the end of the day, IJB, it's just business. So I would have understood it if Mr. Mara came out and said, you know what, I'm firing both of them and moving on. But on the second end of it, other spectrum of it, I can see why he would want that continuity. You could see why a lot of these guys wouldn't want their, you know, third head coach. Darius Slayton was on what, three head coaches in 6 seasons. Then you have to bring another coordinator, offensively, defensively. Like thing about football, if you can't pick up on things, or you can't, or you don't, like Coach Coughlin used to say, excuse me, know and know you know. Sometimes one off season or OTAs in camp, you can't pick up or have that playbook down to where it's like, I know exactly what Shane Bowen's thinking when he's calling this. I know exactly what Brian Dable, Mike Kafka is calling when they call this play. So again, that continuity has to, you would want that there. So again, again, not to be running in circles, but I can see if he did, that would have been like, okay, I understand that, but he didn't, and I'm like, okay, I understand that. Now the athlete in me kicks in, and it's like, all right, how can they right this wrong? How can they right this ship and get back to their winning ways and put a good product on the field to really have Big Blue Nation just going crazy in MetLife Stadium?
All right, I need to ask you quickly. You're out there during games, doing your thing out there in the crowd, talking to people, trying to pump people up. In a year when it was this bad, and you got planes flying overhead, I mean, what was that like? What was the feeling out there? Was it that you were getting when you were out there in amongst the people?
Well, sometimes there'd be that WTF moment, because obviously sometimes like my stuff would be cut. If we're getting blown out at home, what was it, the Eagles game? Usually I go until the fourth quarter because you're not allowed to do all that stuff in the fourth quarter. I'll go down to the performance locker room, change out into my suit to do the post game show on MSG. But sometimes, like I guess the Eagles game and the Bucks game, I got cut early. I was because the game had gotten out of hand. One thing I love about it, Ed, is I really get to feel the pulse of the fan base, man. Like one thing about being in media, I don't. If if I had to sit in the press box the entire game, yeah, you could hear boos and all, but you really don't get to talk to the people. You really don't get to talk to the fans. These people who, I've been in their homes doing, the Giants, filming the Giants fan case, and I'm seeing stuff where someone's grandfather smuggled a seat out of Yankee Stadium. So I really know what Big Blue, how they feel about this team. So when I'm in the stadium and I'm still doing the Pepsi, the quick check shuffle or the Dunkin' Donuts trivia, these people are still rooting on their team, man. Like they're still like, all right, their frustration is there because it's like, I love this team so much. Come on, guys, give me a win. Come on, guys, like put a better product out there in that sense. So it sucked in the sense to where it was like, I know the behind the scenes of guys like Don Sperling and these guys for Giants Entertainment, and how much work they put in on the entertainment side of um, in-game entertainment. Like so many people work so hard. Neil A, Kerry Bold, they work so hard to get everything ready, and then to only have one home win. That's disappointing to not only the fan base, but to the people who put tireless hours of work to get the entertainment side of things. So it's one of those things where it's like, man, it's draining. Can we get a win here? But at the same time, I think the Giants embrace this, man. Like embrace this lowest point. Do not run from this. Get ready. I told Mike Becton, who does a really great job of cutting a lot, editing a lot of the pieces people see with the highlight videos and stuff that they do for the Giants. I'm like, get that footage, use it. Have Mr. Bear tell the fan base, we hear you. We hear you. And Giants 1-on-1, the 101st season is going to be different. Can't guarantee a Super Bowl. You don't know what happens throughout the course of a year, but we hear the fan base and we want our product to be better. Embrace it going into that next season. And that's what I hope they do, Ed.
All right, now you mentioned your dad a couple times. Your dad, Mike, has been a head coach at, I think, two different stops in college, Richmond, and I think currently at William and Mary. He's been assistant coach at Maryland, at Boston College, at Virginia, worked with the Houston Texans. So, so you grew up around it.
Yeah. Yeah. He was also the
You
head coach at Virginia, ACC
okay?
Coach of the Year, and he head coach at Howard as well. So yeah, man. Yep. Sorry to cut you off there.
No,
Sorry.
that's all right. That's all right, man. I didn't do enough research. I didn't
It's all good.
I had those things written down, but I didn't realize that they were also head coaching stops as well. But
Yeah.
so so here's my question for you. You've been around it for a long time. You know what it looks like when it's right. You know what it feels like when it's right. You know what a culture in a locker room feels like when it's right. You've been in that Giants locker room. You know a lot of these guys personally. All right. Um, just what is your take on what it looks like, what it feels like, and what it's going to take to get it pointed in the right direction again?
You see a lot of guys that are tired of losing when they're not ping pong, when they're not, when those ping pong rackets or that ping pong paddle's not out in the locker room. You know something's going on. You know guys are dejected, and losing takes a toll. Like the fans, like I tell people all the time, it's like, I know you guys paid good money to come up and come into this game, and you should be frustrated and upset when you lose. I'm like, but if you the fan are upset and frustrated, just think of how these guys feel. They're the men in the arena. They're the gladiators out there that go through the week, go through the preparation, and then want to go out there and put their best foot forward and win some football games. So you could see it. It takes a toll on anybody and everybody. That's why I was upset with, a lot of media, how they tried to make Malik Neighbors look like he was some sort of like diva or cancer because he's, I don't know, Ask Daves. I don't know what Ask Daves. How is a receiver when he's running a route supposed to know what's going on with the offensive line and the protection and able to answer these questions right after the game without watching film? I don't know why I'm not getting the ball. I don't know why I'm not getting the target. Ask Daves. He sees more than I see because I'm running the route. So that frustration is there because you see guys that care. Dexter Lawrence, Brian Burns could have easily shut down his season a long time ago. The man been hurt since week one, still out there playing, giving it everything he could. Dane Belt gets the opportunity when Tyler Nubin goes down. You still see guys out there that were giving their all. And that right there, I respect that, to where it's like, all right, you could have easily just gave up on this coach. You could have gave up on this regime. You guys could have gave up on each other, but they were still out there trying to win games. Even though it was unpopular to win games, which is crazy to me. But what's it going to take, Ed? It's obviously the quarterback play has to be better. That's number one. I've seen so many games, and this is no knock on Daniel Jones or True Lock or any of these guys, but again, it's business. We are in a highly production business. You got to produce at a high level. There are games where you see guys like Wandale Robinson and Darius Slayton open, underthrown ball not get there, quarterback sacked, even though there wasn't that much pressure. So that frustration is going to be there because now you're asking the defense to hold teams to 13 points, 8 points, so to try and win a game. And the NFL is set up for offenses. So that's another thing that's frustrating, where it's like your offense is struggling, but then you look at the Detroit Lions and they're putting up 40 effortlessly and dancing and having fun. So that frustration is there, Ed. I think so again, better quarterback play. They got to be able to stop the run next season. Guys, teams can't be getting 4, 5, 6 yards of pop on first down. You're automatically behind the sticks on defense. And then I would like to see another explosive player on the offensive side of the ball outside of Malik Neighbors. I think if they can address those three things, then they're back in it. And then it's all about the role player stepping up and being better than a quote unquote role player. And you see that throughout the NFL.
What about the idea you walk around the Giants building and there's a lot of signage, and Joe and Dave's talk about smart, tough, dependable all the time, and you see the signage all over the building, and yet you look at the New York Giants and game after game, it's not physical mistakes. There's talent
Yeah,
is what talent is, but
yeah,
we're talking about so many pre-snap penalties, so many, misalignments, so many illegal motions, illegal shifts, guys jumping. In the last game of the season, a veteran player like Boogie Basham jumping offside on a play at the
Yeah.
end of the game. Um, is that for you when we talk about, what it looks like and what it looks like when it's right? Is that more on the fact that this is just such a young team? Is that more on is it a coaching issue? And I'm not saying it's directly a Brian Daboll issue. It could be a position coach thing. But
Yeah.
is that something that the players in the locker room have to take accountability and and hold each other accountable for mistakes like that?
It's a both. It's a mirrored relationship between coaching staff and players. What I would tell my father, as coach, what I would call him and be like, rip all those signs down. Make them earn signs. Make them earn that type of stuff in that sense. Because again, what you're saying, what we saw, guys, pre-snap penalties and all, that's horse league. That's JV football right there. So that's something to where, as a coach, it's like I know we rep who should get on the ball. Okay, you got to wait a second before you move and motion. I know we've repped that, guys. So why, when we get into the games, are y'all doing this? Are you not locked in? So I think this has to be one of those off seasons for Brian Dable, to where it's like you don't go full Bill Belichick, you don't go full Joe Judge, but you have to express to these guys that the smallest details, that like in 2022 they didn't mess up at all. They allowed other teams to beat themselves. So you have to kind of hit that message all over again, to where it's like at right now at this point, until you more stars come into that locker room and wear that Giants logo, guys, we're not good enough to be beating ourselves. It's not good. We're not good enough to be Giants versus the Cowboys. So that's something that has to be kind of addressed. And for the players, that has to be an accountability thing, because who wants to keep losing because of stupid penalties?
But does it have to be a kind of thing where you yank a guy off the field when he does that, where you're not afraid to say, in the media that this isn't good enough? Um, there's a bit of an impression out there that maybe, Dabes has sort of leaned toward the side of not holding players accountable enough. Um, so where do you draw that line? Is that something where he has to look at himself as well as all the other things?
Absolutely. And then the way you police the locker room in that sense, because it's like, I know everybody wants to be old school and be like, oh, take him off the field. I'm not taking Malik Neighbors off the field for anything unless he's hurt. He could jump off sides or whatever. I'm not taking him off the field the next play, because the very next play, he could change the game by catching a 5 yard pass and going 50 with that. That's an accountability thing, to where the player, that's within the players. Because one thing Coach Coughlin did that, I didn't know hard nosed Coach Coughlin. I came in '07, and I remember during training camp we were in like the hockey pads and the shells, and I would go up to David Tyree and I'm like, man, like I thought Coach Coughlin was like this hard ass coach, man. Like, well, like he's super cool. He go, youngster, you ain't been here long enough. He was like, this is a brand new Tom Coughlin in that sense. But he allowed Stray, he allowed AP, Plax, Tomb. He allowed those guys to kind of police the locker room in that sense. Clean up after yourselves in the locker room. Little championship details. Be nice to the people in the cafeteria. Because remember, the cafeteria was like the size of an igloo back in the day at the old Giant Stadium. So it's all those little things, I feel like, and it starts from that day one when they all walk into that building, March, whatever, for the new league year, and they report. It starts right there, expressing it like really harpering the details of championship effort. And OTAs, that's where it's like the shifts, the motions, all that. You got to beat it into their head, to where they're so bored and so tired of hearing it from you. They kind of hear it when they're on the field. All right, wait a second before I motion. It's that sort of thing. So I mean, you could. So what are you going to do? Like, what are you going to do? You're not going to make guys run laps. Like, Joe Judge tried that. What happened? You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
the only way you get guys is by hitting them, with money, in that sense.
Right.
But some of these guys make so much money. It's like, all right, 10 grand for jumping off sides, whatever. I bought a watch for that the other day.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So it's
Yep.
one of those things where it's creating that environment in the locker room to where it's like, if I jumped off sides, I'm so upset with myself because I let my brothers down.
Last thing for you, and it involves the locker room a little bit. Um, and it's kind of a twofold thing. Kayvon said during the year that he looks at the locker room and he looks at leadership as a quote unquote meritocracy, where you have to perform to a certain level before you can open your mouth and try to lead. So part of the question is, do you buy that? And the other part of the question is, when we talk about holding players accountable, does this team need more veteran leadership?
First part to it, yeah, what Kayvon said, there is 9 times out of 10, you better be producing if you're going to speak up. 9 times out of 10, you better not be that guy jumping off sides and creating penalties and blowing assignments. And you're the one trying to speak up to be like, hey, we need to do this. No, you need to do that if you're that guy, in that sense. So what he's saying is right. And yes, they do need more veteran leadership in there because when you have guys like Tyrone Tracy Jr., Drew Phillips, Malik Neighbors, as three of your best players on the team as rookies, that's a problem because now you got guys who they should be looking up to you or leaning to you to get to hear what they need to hear or for leadership or what path should I follow. You Now they have to be the ones that are speaking up and saying things. And again, they're trying to learn it. So that's like me rookie year trying to like tell Monty Toomer, like, come on, man, you got to be better here. You got to be better, at doing the little things when you're out there. No, I got a chance to watch Toom. He used to stretch all the time. He used to eat right. He used to carry himself a certain way. I watched that. Same thing with Plax. I watched Plax. I took certain things from it. I even took a lot. I took a lot, learned a lot from Jeremy Shockey as well. Shockey was a big mentor to me my rookie year as well. So you're looking at these different guys and you're looking at how they kind of carry and conduct themselves both on the field and off the field. And you take a piece of each guy. But if I'm Malik Neighbors and I'm the star this early, who do I learn from? Yeah, you can learn from a Darius Slayton. Darius Slayton's a great guy, and then you'll have that respect right there. But that's because you guys are in the same position group. He's not around the DBs that much. He's not around the linebackers that much. So who is he going to pull from in that sense? So it's that those a couple vets because you know who they missed a lot. Ed Jahad Ward, even though he wasn't like a sack leader on the team or anything, he's a guy that, yeah, again, his stats weren't anything crazy, but he did so much grunt work. He did so much set the edge. He'll be the bully. He'll be the one that'll fight you so Kayvon didn't have to get into a scrap or something. He was that bully out, that silverback gorilla on that defense to where when Hottie used to speak, everybody shut up and listen. Plus, he'd probably punch you in the face if he wanted to, too, if you got out of line. So those like that type of guy is a guy that's like, I don't think they had last year to that sense to where he could kind of keep it all together because he does so much little things in order for you to be great that you respect that type of guy
It's
and his work.
interesting. Yeah, it's interesting. And I know you got to run here in a minute, but you mentioned Jihad Ward. And what I remember about Jihad Ward was when there was something that needed to be said, when there was a message that needed to be delivered from the locker room to the media, like when there was a big fight in the training camp practice. It was Jihad Ward that the organization would send out to talk to us.
Yep.
And I think your point is well taken that there aren't enough of those kinds of voices, in the locker room. So,
Yeah. Yep.
anyway, I appreciate the time. I know you got to run. Just real quick, if you want to let people know where to find you on your socials and where to find the work from the post that you're involved in, go right ahead.
at Brendan London TV across all the socials. Make sure you guys check out at New York Post Sports, delivering all the content. We got some cool interviews coming up with Daniel Bellinger. Hopefully, we can get Tyrone Tracy Jr. here in studio. We'll have Evan Neal. Definitely want to sit down with him one on one, talk about his time here and how he's going to get better. I love this type of content because again, season's over. I think the fan base needs to hear from the players now in more of a raw, relaxed, non-produced environment now because they hear it. Talking to Daniel, the other day when I saw him watching, some of the division, the wild card football games, they hear it. They hear it. They want to be better. They want to have those glory days that I got to experience back in the day, Ed.
Mhm.
Those days where we got to see. They want it more than anyone else. So we're gonna have some really good content to sit these guys down and get raw and get real with them. But to the fan base, like, thanks for being such a great fan base. You guys have launched my career. You've invited me in your homes. Some of you guys have been fans, but have turned into friends, been invited into my home at my baby shower, buying gifts for my son and stuff like that. So really great fan base. I think that the Giants going to turn this thing around sooner than later, hopefully. But can't wait for the new season, man. Because I mean, at the end of the day, only way to go from here is up.
All right, Brandon, thank you so much. And maybe we'll do this again. We get to spring, we get to training camp. So
Yes,
thanks
sir.
again. Giants fans, thank you as always for listening. Please stay safe out there. Take care of each other, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.